What are the biggest matchups between the Eagles and Vikings in week 2? What do we expect from Jalen Hurts? How does Jonathan Gannon's defense rebound in week 2 against the Vikings? All that and more on the latest Eagles Game Day Live. What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Eagles Pregame Live. Today, we are breaking down everything you need to know between the Eagles and Vikings, matchups to watch, player of the game predictions, score predictions, all that and more. Joining me, my man, Mark Henry from Chalk Talk, from Fox Sports The Gambler. If you want to win some money, he is at Mark Henry Jr. _ What is good, Mark?
I'm excited, man. This is a big game. I tweeted it out this morning. I haven't been this excited for an Eagles game since 2019 Wild Card Weekend against Seattle. I haven't been this excited, and it might be positive, it might be negative. I think we're going to find out a lot tonight, so I'm pumped up.
Absolutely. What a huge measuring test for Jalen Hurts and the Eagles. Also joining me for the first time ever, man, James. I'm just so psyched to have you, co-host of the Patterson Avenue Fanatics Show on Edge of Philly Sports and also the Painted Lines. What is good, James?
What's going on, Phyllis? The one thing I'm hoping for tonight is a better outcome than the defense last week, like with Jonathan Gannon. Let's hope we have it. But the one thing I am excited about tonight, Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown, man. You can't get nothing better than that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We're breaking it all down. Guys, if you're watching us live, Edge of Philly Sports, the Painted Lines, Philly Sports Alliance, we're all here loving the birds. And please leave a comment. Please be sure to smash that like button. Help us get this show out to more people, more views. Let's get started with the first topic of the night. And that's got to be Jalen freaking Hurts. What are our expectations for Jalen Hurts against the Minnesota Vikings? I'm going to throw this one to you, Mark. Go ahead, bro.
Yeah, you watched last week's game. I don't think we can get away with 17 rushes from Jalen Hurts in this game against the Vikings. I think they'll have a little bit better of a game plan defensively to stop Jalen Hurts. But the biggest X factor in this game, I think it is Eagles offense versus Vikings defense. I know we're going to focus a lot on Gannon, and we're going to talk a lot about that for sure. And that's a big X factor of what's going to happen tonight. But I think the biggest question mark going into tonight's game is, what is this Vikings defense? Coming into the year, you're expecting a little bit of a regression from them with the fact that Mike Zimmer was their head coach, defensive-minded guy. You switch that to Kevin O'Connell, an offensive-minded guy. Oftentimes, there's a little bit of a drop-off defensively. When that happens, week 1, we didn't see that. Minnesota was fantastic against Green Bay, who then came out, played pretty good on offense last night. So, what is this Minnesota defense? Is it what we saw in week 1? Or is it what we saw towards the end of last year? Or is it somewhere in the middle? I think that's going to be a big X factor in what happens for Jalen Hurts tonight. I think we're going to see him get the ball to A.J. Brown an absolute ton. I think we saw that he locked in on him, especially in week 1. I would hope that maybe we mix in a little bit more Smith into the game plan, maybe a little bit more Quez, maybe even a little bit more throwing it to the running backs. But, if it's working, then you don't got to fix it with A.J. Brown. But the one bet that I would make with Jalen Hurts, I'll touch on it here. I was going to touch on it later. But since we're starting with Hurts, anytime touchdown scorer is plus 125. Take it and run. Last year, they had to stop making it at plus money. They had to up it to minus 120, minus 130. The odds makers have forgot over the offseason. Even though he scored in week 1, Jalen Hurts likes to run the football into the end zone. There's a reason he had, I believe it was 10 rushing touchdowns last year in 15 games. That's a pretty good percentage. If you're giving me about 66% of the time that he's going to score a touchdown, I'll take that at plus 125 as a gambling man. So Jalen Hurts plus 125. I think he scores a rushing touchdown tonight.
My man, Mark, always got to throw in that gambling sports advice. James, what are your expectations for Jalen Hurts, man?
Well, I think it's going to be a bigger upgrade than it was last week. I mean, last week it was a very impressive win by Hurts. I think the one thing I liked about it is that he was seeing the ball down the field, and especially like last year was a cause for concern. It was like throwing the ball out of bounds, which was kind of a little bit of a head scratcher. But then he started to get better with his passing, and I think it's going to be a big game for Devontae Smith too. I think it's going to be like he's finally going to come around, and AJ Brown like. What a great debut he had last week with Jalen Hurts. So it's going to be a lot. Hurts is going to have the same, hopefully have the same effect that he had last week. And I'm hoping, and I'm anxious to see what they have in store with the running game as well. They could see some plays happening there too.
Love it, man. I fully agree. We have a comment. Gannon's defense better step up tonight. Finally, that is our next talking point. After Jalen Hurts. For me, I'm going to just throw this on here. Thanks for the comment, Joe. For me, I think my expectations will come down to how Jalen Hurts handles the Vikings pass rush and third downs. Those are the two areas I'm looking at. This is Jalen Hurts against the Detroit Lions blitz on Sunday. This is a Vikings defense that got to Aaron Rodgers 4 times last week, held him under 200 yards. They got an interception. How the Lions are able to generate their pass rush against the Eagles in week 1 was simply disturbing. And like Mark said, this isn't your mom and pop's Vikings defense. They went from a 4-3 to a 3-4 base look. You're going to see 2 deep safety shells. That is their go-to safety alignment. You look at the Vikings, they blitzed and they got pressure just as much as the Lions did in week 1, but they only blitzed 18% of the time. So I expect that number to go up. I think the blueprint is out on Jalen Hurts. Stack the box, make Jalen Hurts beat you with his arm. That is what we're going to see here tonight. And then you go to third downs. Third downs and Jalen Hurts has not been a good thing in his career, man. He was awful last year on third downs. He had a completion percentage of just over 53%. That was 26th in the league, along with 3 interceptions, a QB rating of 81.3. You look at Jalen Hurts, and I thought he did okay against the blitz. Mostly when you're watching this highlight reel, when they have a design play to get the ball out fast, there to Dallas Goedert, it looked pretty good. So when that ball is getting out of Jalen Hurts' hands fast and quick, I like our odds in that situation. When Jalen Hurts tucks and runs and leaves, that's where I don't think he's going to have as much success against this Minnesota Vikings defense, which is clearly better than the Detroit Lions. So for me, those are the 2 areas. So I like what I saw on third down as well. I thought that AJ in week 1, that Jalen Hurts to AJ Brown chemistry on third downs was nice. Not so much for Devontae, but the timing was there. The chemistry was there. The slants, AJ Brown looked pretty much nearly unstoppable on those slants and those quick routes. So for me, those 2 areas, third downs, and we'll go in a little bit more when we break down the Eagles offense in a bit, but that's what I'm looking at. How Jalen Hurts manages the blitz, and can the Eagles get done and be efficient on third downs? They were the number 2 or 3 team on third downs in week 1. So that's what I'm looking at. I'm going to throw this back to you, James. Our next question is a good one because this is the one that's been killing me the last few nights. How does Jonathan Gannon get the Eagles defense back on track in week 2? You're up, bro.
Well, here's the thing about with Jonathan Gannon that really concerned me last week was just the cause for the bend don't break kind of defense, I guess was the right word for it, because last week it felt like we were on the edge of our seat and it was like basically too close to comfort. I mean, that's the biggest thing more than anything. And I look down on it, I say like they're going to probably lose this lead. I mean, there was some plays where DeAndre Swift on the second play of the game, I worry about that too, is that, say, for example, that's Dalvin Cook tonight, or even Dalvin Cook, or even Justin Jefferson seeing that field, and it's just you can't let that happen. It was really bad.
What about you, Mark? You're muted, man.
That's classic. I mean, that's absolutely classic. But yeah, I hate the bend but don't break thing. I hated it last year.
So
I still hate it
so
now.
Do I.
I mean, I get that it's going to make our corners grade out well in PFF. But besides that, I don't really see what the upside to doing it is. But I think that what they have to do is when you build your team the way that the Eagles build their team, and you devote so many resources to the defensive line, especially to the defensive tackle position, more resources than the rest of the NFL. You have to be able to get pressure without blitzing more than any other team in the NFL. You have to be able to get pressure without blitzing with those front four guys. And if you don't, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. You're going to have a lot of problems. They're going to be able to dink and dunk on you all day long. We saw it last year with games against Justin Herbert and Derek Carr, against the Chargers and Raiders. It's kind of what you saw against the Lions. But the biggest concern was that they weren't able to stop the run, because last year they were always pretty good against the run. So it was really concerning to see week one. I mean, maybe you can rationalize it by saying Detroit came out in week 2 and really ran the ball well again against Washington. Maybe the Lions are just really good. Maybe I'm an idiot because I thought the Lions were going to be terrible this year. But, you know, I think that there is something to be said for maybe it was week 1. Maybe you shake the cobwebs off a little bit from a stopping the run perspective. But, of course, people are going to focus on what Jordan Davis's snap count is. That's going to be, I'm sure Shane Haff will go viral for a tweet tomorrow about what Jordan Davis's snap counts are. And I think that's going to be something we argue about and have about online every game. I think that that's going to be something that we track every single game. So it'll be interesting to see. It didn't seem like from Jonathan Gannon's answers this week, like he's just going to, turn the switch and play Jordan Davis 60%. It seems like we're going to be getting at most 40%, maybe 45% of snaps from Jordan Davis, which when you trade up for a guy at the 12th pick, it's concerning. And it's concerning when you're not using him, especially when he's on the field. They were stopping the run. When he was off, they weren't. So there's something to be said for that. So it's going to be an interesting thing to watch, not only this game, but for the whole season.
I fully agree. Joseph's in the house saying hi from Florida. Go Birds. What's up, Florida? Thanks for joining. Buckets, hats, and birdies. I don't know who that is, but I'm going to just make a guess. That's my man, Ty. I know that mustache from anywhere. He says run defense has to be better tonight against a back like Dalvin Cook. I read that wrong. My head went to the gutter. Never mind. Scoring 31 offensive points should be a 2-score wins at minimum. Gannon's system is going to turn my mustache gray. I fully agree. Joe's in the house. Part of the defense's problems is that the linebackers aren't big enough. They seem to focus on speed from the linebackers. And then I'd like to see some Nakobe Dean snaps this week too. Just for, to make us all vomit. Here is the Eagles' run defense against the Detroit Lions. For me, like you nailed it, Mark. More Jordan freaking Davis. The Eagles allowed 0.02 EPA per play per rush against the Lions. That number jumped up to 0.42. If Gannon doesn't play more Jordan Davis, if he doesn't play more than 23 snaps, we're gonna have major problems, Mark, come tomorrow morning. That's a big part. I'd also like to punt Jonathan Gannon's soft-ass coverage bullshit to the moon and get Darius Slay, get James Bradbury up on that line of scrimmage, get in the face of Adam Thielen, get in the face of Justin Jefferson. I think Jonathan Gannon's defense looks so soft when he's playing 5-10 yards off the line of scrimmage every freaking time. That has to stop in week 2. I thought the Eagles blitz was pretty good in week 1. I want to see Gannon keep with that blitz. I want the Eagles make a statement with the blitz from the jump period. I think that Gannon needs to prepare for the Vikings play action tonight. The Vikings had the most yards in the league last year on play action. They completed 159 yards on 11 attempts with 10 completions and 2 touchdowns. Nearly 16 yards per completion in play action. You've got obviously Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen. How Jonathan Gannon kind of adjusts to Justin Jefferson in constant pre-snap motion is going to be huge. Justin Jefferson had 4 catches on 4 targets when in motion in week 1. That is a huge area to watch. So not only do they need to get a pass rush, but they have to. You're going to know from the first quarter how Gannon prepared for Justin Jefferson, because that what the Vikings did last week, and they did so damn well at it, was getting Justin Jefferson in mismatch problems all game long. So we'll see. This is a huge test for Jalen Hurts. as much as it is for Jonathan Gannon. Let's go on to
Real quick, Dives. You made a great point there with wanting to see Slay and Bradbury up on the line. This is something we've talked about on Chalk Talk with Shane and I. The fact is, I understood in the past when you weren't confident in your cornerback room to play this way. It makes a lot of sense. If you're not going to devote a lot of resources to cornerback, or if you're not confident in your secondary, then I understand playing a little soft in coverage and playing and allowing plays in front of you to prevent big plays behind you. I get that. But if you go out and you have Darius Slay and you're going to act like he's a top 5 to 10 corner in the league, and you go out and you get James Bradbury and he's a really, really good number 2, probably one of the better number 2s in the NFL. And then not to mention you have Avonte Maddox, one of the better slot corners in the NFC in the slot. You have the guys to run a real defense. You don't have to run this rinky-dink, gimmicky bullshit when you have the horses in the secondary. So that'll be something that I think all of Philly's watching.
Absolutely. Let's roll on to our next question. Our favorite matchups to watch between the Eagles and Vikings. And my man Big Al said, simple game plan, rattle Kirk Cousins, and the game is yours. I think there's a layup here, and I'm not going to go there. My matchup to watch, I'm going to lead us off, is the Eagles' interior pass rush. It just has to be better in week 2. The Eagles only had 1 sack against the Lions, which was on a botched snap. Jared Goff got rid of the ball in just over 2 seconds on average. That was the 5th quickest time in the league. I expect Kirk Cousins to see that tape and get the ball out quick tonight. I thought Hargrave and Fletcher Cox need to be way better here against the Vikings. You got Garrett Bradbury, who's no Frank Ragnow. I think they're a little soft on that interior. You look at the Vikings, this is a team that lined up under center for the 5th most snaps in the NFL in week 1. I think Fletcher Cox, Javon Hargrave, and Jordan Davis are going to be huge difference makers in this game. Just like Big Al said, get in the grill of Kirk Cousins, get up in there and make an impact. I'm looking at the interior defensive line. I'll throw it to you, Mark. I'll throw it to you, James, first. What's your take?
Yeah, that's the biggest thing I have to say about it is that with Jordan Davis, you need to have to give him more snaps. But hopefully it won't be like 45 to 50, maybe more like 75, 80 snaps, because he's one guy that you got in. No, I know it won't happen, but I know. But the thing is too is that you would love to see him be out there for 75 to 80 snaps, but I don't think that's going to happen. That's the biggest concern that I have to say about Gannon's scheme is that even though it's a little bit up in the I guess a little bit up in the middle about sometimes when it's good and bad, they just look like they look sometimes they look good on plays and some plays they don't look good in plays, and that's what has to be fixed tonight.
Yeah. What about you, Mark?
Yeah, I just want to touch on the Jordan Davis thing real quick, and I don't want everyone to hate me watching. But the reason that there was concerns with the Jordan Davis pick was because he played. I forget the number now, Dives. Was it 37% at Georgia?
I think so. It was like mid-30s. It was like mid-30s.
Yeah, he played 36% or 37%, and I know that everyone's going to throw that at me and say, "Oh, it was Georgia's scheme, and Georgia had a million defensive linemen," and they did. But the other defensive linemen all played over 50%. Trey Walker played 56%. By the way, Dives looking like a genius. Trayvon Walker looks like an absolute beast. The Georgia defensive line, they all played above 50%. I do think at a certain point, I always kind of figured that there was a snap count ceiling with Jordan Davis. Even if Jordan Davis in 3 years from now, I don't see him ever really getting above 60%. Is that fair to say, Dives?
That's pretty fair. But it
sounds about right.
Yeah. What was his percentage in week 1? I mean, it had to be what, like 20?
It was I think it was 30. I think it was low 30s. Yeah, I think it was 30% or low 30s. But yeah, the hope is you can get him to 50%. I think if you could get him to play 50% of the snaps, then you're really you have a defensive run stuffer that the rest of the league just doesn't have because of his size. So I've never doubted Jordan Davis as a run stuffing elite, talent at the defensive tackle position. My concerns with Jordan Davis were always based in how many resources we were already allocating to defensive tackle. And then also, even at his peak, what's his snap count percentage going to look like? And is he ever going to be a legitimate pass rushing threat? But he's an absolutely elite run stuffer. So against Dalvin Cook, against the Vikings, you'd like to see him play as many snaps as possible.
Yeah, I fully agree. The Eagles, I think, are top 5 in money allocated to the defensive line in the NFL. It just has to be better. Has to be better against a great team, right? What, Mark?
They're top 5 in defensive line. They're top 1 in defensive tackle. If you shorten that down, we're not in the top 10 to 15 in edge. The reason we're top 5 in defensive line is because we're top 1 in resources allocated to defensive tackle by a lot. And there's a team in the NFL who has Aaron Donald on contract, and we allocate more resources to defensive tackle than the Rams do. So that's just a little of an idea of how ridiculous the team building is at times, but Howie did a lot of great things. I can't complain too much. But there are certain things that still stick in my craw a little bit.
Quentin says, sorry, but this feels like an L tonight, mostly because of Gannon. Allison chimes in, what's going on? The rinky-dink BS is the new defensive meta.
Yeah, it is. You can thank Vic Fangio.
It is.
Yeah. Quentin says, matchup to watch, Jalen Reagor versus our punt coverage. Oh, God.
Oh, my God.
Could you imagine Jalen Reagor scoring a touchdown in Philly? That'd be you couldn't write. You couldn't write that. It would be just the fans' reaction to that would be priceless.
Wait, is the Eagles game against the Commanders next week on the road or at home? It's on the road?
I think it's on the road. I could be wrong.
Okay, never mind. I was going to say having Jalen Reagor and Carson Wentz come to town in back-to-back weeks would be really, really funny. But I think you're right. I think it is on the road. But yeah, Jalen Reagor scoring a touchdown tonight is probably a lock in some capacity. It's just that's how being a Philly fan works. But I don't think he got like any snaps last week, so hopefully we don't have to worry about that.
Yeah. Big Al says Jefferson is going to get his yards and catches, but need to limit the touchdowns, kind of like the Lions did to A.J. Brown. We're going to bracket Justin Jefferson. I wouldn't be surprised if they do the same to A.J. Brown, given how many targets. I think it was an incredible amount of targets. Quentin says Davis might have to lose weight. Let's go on to our next question, which is excluding Justin Jefferson, which player on the Vikings scares you the most? This one's easy. I'm going to lead us off. I think it's Dalvin Cook. I think it's hard at all. DeAndre Swift was an absolute monster against the Eagles in week 1. You're going to see a lot of Dalvin Cook out there in shotgun formation. And similar to kind of defensively with the Vikings, this is a very different look offensively for Minnesota. You're going to see the Vikings use Dalvin Cook more of a complement to the team's offense, which is a lot more creative through the air this year. I'm not going to go into detail about how the Eagles' run defense got carved up in week 1, but you look at the Vikings offense, man, this is a team that's going to spread the field. You're going to see a heavy dose of 11 personnel. The Vikings averaged 6.5 yards per carry on 11 attempts in 11 personnel in week 1. And even more importantly, none of those attempts were more than 12 yards. So this team is crazy efficient in 11 personnel. And then you look at week 1 between the Lions and Eagles, the Lions played 32 snaps with 11 personnel, and they went for 143 yards on 22 carries, 2 touchdowns, and 8 first downs. The Eagles got absolutely blown up against 11 personnel. Dalvin Cook, to say that he scares the shit out of me is saying it lightly. And to even just punt and get into them even further, on those snaps in 11 personnel, the Vikings ran 32. The Eagles played, 5 snaps? 5 snaps, I think, in like nickel against that. It was just an atrocious game plan from Jonathan Gannon, who was always kind of out-schemed against the Lions. So Dalvin Cook is going to be a problem. He's going to be a big problem tonight. What about you, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, Dalvin Cook's absolutely the answer outside of Justin Jefferson. So I'll just go in a different direction. And I will say, because he was quiet last week and Jefferson was so good last week, I'll say I think the Eagles are going to sell out so hard to stop Jefferson that I think things are going to be open for Adam Thielen. So I would watch out for Adam Thielen to probably catch a touchdown, probably have 50, 60 plus yards. I haven't taken a look at his props tonight, and I don't bet against the Eagles or bet on players playing against the Eagles props generally. So I'm going to stay away from that. But if you're otherwise inclined, I would take a look at Adam Thielen, because I think that there are going to be things open if they're selling out so hard to stop Jefferson. So Cook's the answer, though.
Yep. What about you, James?
Yeah, I think that's the thing too. Like you look at Dalvin Cook. I mean, he's going to get his carries. That's the biggest thing I worry about with Gannon's scheme is that even though it was a little bit up in the air with the stuff he was doing last week, but I think if I got to say one player for me to watch, I got to say Justin Jefferson because like Jefferson's probably going to be one guy that's going to be have a little chip on his shoulder about like, oh, you guys didn't draft me, so it's like now it's time for me to pay my revenge. So I got to go with Justin Jefferson tonight.
Yeah, here's Justin Jefferson against the Green Bay Packers. Well, you're going to just watch how off this guy is just used all over the field, man. He's an absolute monster and what it means for Adam Thielen and everyone else on this Vikings offense. But here's a little bit of Justin Jefferson, all of his targets in week one. Some comments real quick. Joe says Jalen Reagor is going to fair catch his punts really aggressively. Love it, Joe. Dalvin Cook scares me more than Justin Jefferson after the run defense last week. I absolutely agree. Quentin agrees too. Mr. Crockbot nailing the scheme numbers. Love the depth of research. Hate what it says for the night ahead, man. It's going to be a great game. It's going to be a great game. So many things to learn about Gannon, about Hurts, so much. Let's roll into our next question of our pregame show. Which player on the Eagles is poised for a huge game tonight? Lead us off, James.
Yeah, I got to go with Devontae Smith. I think after last week, he was pretty silent. I have to say, I think this might be one night that's going to be Devontae Smith's kind of night. I think it's going to be he's going to have probably like 5 or 6 catches, maybe, and then a mix between with AJ Brown. But yeah, I think it's going to be Devontae Smith.
Absolutely love that. That's the line. What about you, Mark?
I'm gonna have to say Jalen Hurts. I mean, that's an obvious answer to go with the quarterback, but I'm gonna go with Jalen Hurts because I think we saw the Vikings shut down. I'm not gonna say an outdated offense in Green Bay, but an offense with more of a pocket passer. We saw them shut down a passing offense. I think Jalen Hurts is going to give the Vikings a different look than what they saw last week. And I do think we are going to see Jalen Hurts get loose for probably 60-plus yards and at least a rushing touchdown, like I said earlier. Like, I don't think he rushes for 17 times like he did last week, but I think Jalen Hurts is going to be the X factor on third downs, and I think it's going to be his leg because, you know, Shane Half from Chalk Talk says it best about Jalen Hurts when he sees the blitz. When he sees the fact that there's 6 blitzers with 5 potential offensive linemen or 7 blitzers with 6 potential blockers, a lot of quarterbacks in the NFL, like a Derek Carr, or I don't know why I said Derek Carr first. That's a bizarre choice by me. Like a Tom Brady or an Aaron Rodgers or a Justin Herbert or a Patrick Mahomes, they're going to see that blitzer and they're going to go, oh, that means that we have a mismatch on the outside, or oh, that means I can go deep and take a chance here. But what Jalen Hurts sees is, oh, I just have to beat one guy one-on-one, and then I have a first down with my legs. So that's going to be the X factor, and I know we want to see him stand back there in the pocket and throw more, but I think he's going to need to use his legs to win today's game, or tonight's game, I should say. So I'll say Jalen Hurts.
All right. Moody Blues says, if we get the dub, Jalen Hurts has to hit Kirk Cousins with the "you like that? You like that?" Oh, that'd be awesome. But just to piggyback off of Mark, yeah, I agree that if you have been following my show Party on Broad or, Lions previews this week, you know my answer to this one. Quentin knows my answer to this one. It's 100% Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders, Miles Sanders, Miles Sanders. You look at what I've been talking about the last few months. I want a more well-balanced Eagles offense. I want to see Jalen Hurts take that next step inside the pocket, get that ball downfield, show me something with his arm, throwing in the tight windows. All that goes out the window tonight, James. I want to see the Eagles pound the rock. If there's any way the Eagles get the W tonight, it's because the Vikings' run defense is not that great. Their pass defense is much better than their run defense. Miles Sanders, I thought, had a great week in week one. He was one of the true, not stars per se, but I thought he really impressed. And this is coming from a non-Miles Sanders fan, so just so everyone knows this. But I want to see Jalen Hurts, Miles Sanders, cement themselves with a strong running attack from the jump. Just sell out the run. and hopefully that'll open up Devontae and everyone else downfield. So for me, it is Miles Sanders. If Miles has a better game than Dalvin, I think the odds are in your favor here. We got some more comments. Love the comments, guys. Keep them flowing. Joe says, go Birds, baby. Moody Blues is laughing. Joe says, Miles Sanders ran with a ton of guts last week. I absolutely agree. Extremely well. 34-24 Birds tonight. Love the optimism. Ty, you're always pretty optimistic. I think your score last week was pretty high on the Lions too. And Quentin says, pound it. Love it, love it, love it. That
feed the beast, man. Feed the beast.
Absolutely. And that doesn't just exclude, I want Boston Scott, who looked good in pass protection. I want Kenny Gainwell, who had some moments as well. Next question. The Eagles beat the Vikings tonight because fill in the blank, James.
Well, like you said, basically, like running the ball is going to be the biggest key. I think, like if Miles Sanders has like another great game like he did last week, it's going to be another fun night, and the Eagles will go 2-0. So I think that's the one thing I got to say out of it. So, like we said last year, I'm going to say it again: run the ball.
Run the ball. Run the damn ball. You're going to hear everyone in the stadium saying that, pounding their chest. You know it.
Damn right.
It's Eagles. It's just so predictable. What about you, Mark?
I'm going to say if the Eagles win tonight, it's because the Vikings defense shows themselves to not be what we saw last week and to be more what we saw last year. Did they fix their defense by drafting, Andrew Booth, Lewis Seen, getting a couple new guys in there? Andrew Booth isn't active tonight, actually. Bringing in Darius Smith, Danielle Hunter, looking like, a rejuvenated version of himself. You've got Eric Kendricks and Jordan Hicks at linebacker. There's a lot of new pieces. There's a whole new scheme. It looked great in week 1. Is that what they're going to be in week 2? That's the biggest X factor. So if the Eagles win tonight, it'll be because the Vikings defense turns into a pumpkin.
Yeah, I love it. Obviously, mine is if the Eagles control the line of scrimmage and pound the rock. It's not that difficult on my end, at least. Like just the Eagles' offensive line is absolutely sensational when it comes to running the football. I want to see more of that here. And if the Eagles can control the time of possession, if the Eagles, sometimes the best, like you guys are Cobra Kai fans, I hope, because it's a great show. Absolutely watch it. Sometimes the best defense is a great offense. Strike fast, strike quick, no mercy. That's what I want to see from the Eagles offensively tonight. I want them to control momentum. I want them to control the line of scrimmage, and that starts with a solid ground attack. Let's go to the other side. The Eagles lose tonight because, Mark.
The Eagles lose tonight because what we saw in week 1 was real. The Eagles lose tonight because the Eagles defense has legitimate concerns in terms of the scheme, and the Eagles lose tonight because the Vikings defense is dramatically improved. So we are going to need week 1 to be an anomaly for the Eagles to win tonight. That's my opinion. So we'll get to predictions in a minute, but that's a little bit of a preview.
Yeah, we have Sean in the house saying, "What's up, guys? I want to see Dallas tear it up." We'll see. We'll see.
I do not. I personally, real quick, I have in my most important fantasy league. I know no one wants to talk about fantasy. No one cares about anyone else's fantasy team. I'm up by 8 points. I have the Vikings kicker. I'm going against Dallas Goedert.
Oh no!
If Goddard scores, I'm gonna be happy. But I'm gonna be going to check to the phone and hoping the Vikings settle for some field goals. So
that is legit Exhibit A. Why fantasy football is the worst. Absolutely,
I love it.
I hate it. No,
I'm in 9 leagues this year, guys. It's absolutely it's taken over my life.
I'm not surprised.
Oh man.
Guys, if you love fantasy football, follow Mark Henry Jr. on Twitter. He crushed it.
Sure.
Why did the Eagles lose tonight against the Vikings?
Well, it's basically what Mark said. But if Jonathan Gannon's defense starts to bend, don't break again, then you got to worry. Then it's going to be like, oh shit, this is a reality now. And I hope it's not the case. I hope that the other thing that last week they learned from the mistakes, and I hopefully that we see not a repeat of last week, in my opinion.
Yeah, the answer to this question is easy. I think it's Jonathan Gannon. Jonathan Gannon is Jonathan Gannon. You'll see him allow Kirk Cousins to pick him apart. to give them a 5-10 yard cushion. And you saw Gannon last year against good quarterbacks. When he gives them time, when good quarterbacks have the ability to kind of just pick this Eagles defense apart, the Eagles have no answer. And they're efficient, and that's my nightmare. That is an absolute nightmare. So my answer is Jonathan Gannon, especially how he adjusts to Justin Jefferson in all this pre-snap motion. Those matchups, will he bracket Justin Jefferson? What does that mean for Adam Thielen? Dalvin Cook? Will the Eagles' run defense improve? I'm pretty confident the Eagles' offense will put up points tonight. But at the end of the day, can they get the stops? That is my biggest concern. I think the Eagles tonight because of Jonathan Gannon. But let's go into some comments. Mark legit needs to take off all that Eagles gear if he's calling it out. Dude, I'm telling you right now, a lot of us are calling an Eagles out. This is not an Eagles. We don't pride ourselves off being Eagles fans. We pride ourselves off being objective and serious. And you're not gonna find a lot of homers on this channel, just so you're aware. Sean says, well, in that case, how about Devontae tearing it up? I have him in fantasy. I hope, man, because that chemistry. What is up with the chemistry between Jalen Hurts and Devontae Smith? It's just not good. It's not there. It's not there, man. It wasn't there in 2021. There are so many yards left on the field in 2021. In week 1 in 2022, they're clearly not on the same page. Devontae had a drop. There was an underthrow, I believe. I really want to see Devontae against the CB2s, against the slot defenders, man. That's a mismatch every single freaking time, man. I definitely agree. Let Devontae feast in week 2. Let's go on to our final question tonight, and that is players of the game predictions and score predictions. Mark, where are you at?
I hate to say it, but I have, even with all this Eagles gear, I'm sorry, Darth Pooh 79. I'm an Eagles fan. When this game gets going, I'll be screaming at the TV, and I hope I'm dead wrong. But I don't like this matchup. I think the Eagles are going to lose. I think they lose 26-24 on a last-second field goal by Greg Joseph for me to win in fantasy there. But 26-24, that's my prediction. I think Jalen Hurts leads us down the field to either kick a field goal or score a touchdown. We think that's going to be over. The Vikings get the ball with like a minute left. They go down and they get a field goal like we saw so much in the NFL. That would be my pick. But for the people who want to hear some homer stuff, my prediction right now for the Eagles season is I think we're going to lose the next 2 games. I think we lose tonight, and then on a short week, I think we turn around and lose at Washington. I think we win 7 straight after that. That's my current prediction. I think they lose the next 2, win 7 straight. So you might be unhappy with me picking against us for the next 2 weeks. I'll be picking us for 7 weeks after that. I think we get to 8-2 in the next 10 weeks. So a little long-term prediction there. And player of the game, Justin Jefferson. He's incredible.
Justin Jefferson. Yeah. Absolutely agree. Sean says, I want to see our secondary come up big with an interception there. Absolutely, man. That James Bradbury pick 6 was absolutely one of the biggest difference makers in week 1, especially considering, the defensive takeaways in 2021, man. This game could very well be decided by one of those plays. Does Jalen Hurts make the first mistake, or is it Kirk Cousins? And I think all that will be determined by the pass rush. So Sean, awesome comment. Darth Pooh says, say the name with respect. Return your gear to Foreman Mills. You shouldn't wear it or talk. Get out of here, Darth Pooh. Get out of here with that BS, man. That's not how we go here. What about you, James? What's your player of the game and score prediction?
I gotta say my player of the game. I think it's going to be like a repeat of last week with AJ Brown, but it's going to be a sweat though. I must say to that. I think it's going to be. Because I still don't know what Gannon's going to be doing with this defense.
Exactly.
But I have the Eagles winning by a game-winning field goal by Jake Elliott, 31-28 Birds.
Love it. James with the Eagles W. Mark with the Eagles L. Bucket Hats and Birdie says, always optimistic early in the season. It's nice, a big gauge. Mark has a good take on the next 2 weeks, though. If you saw my earlier shows this week, I'm not moving. I called the Eagles game within 3 points last week. This week, I'm calling a Vikings W by 4. I think the Eagles lose tonight, 31-27. I think Gannon's defense will be the culprit, in this one. And Mark, actually, like, we're on the same page. We're on the same absolute wavelength on this one. I think I think the Eagles offense will play efficient. I think they'll play hard. But at the end of the day, I'm not buying the Eagles defense right now. And I think at the end of the day, that's going to be the deal breaker. So for me, I think Jalen, even if, like, it's hard too, right? It's just one game. It's just one game in a 17-game season. But you look at last year. The Eagles, did they win against any, winning team in the NFL last year? I don't think so. And the Minnesota Vikings are a very good team. So I'm at odds here. Like my heart says the Eagles win, but my brain is saying this is going to be an L. And to kind of piggyback off of that, it's just one game. It's just one game. It's just one game. And we'll roll on from there. Quentin says Vikings 27, Eagles 17. It's going to be a great test. Great test for Jalen Hurts against the pass rush, a defensive line of the Vikings that love to rotate. It's going to be an even more test for Jonathan Gannon with a Vikings offense that loves pre-snap motion, a Vikings offense that loves to be efficient. This is a much different Vikings offense this season. So that is that. We're going to wrap it up.
Real quick,
what?
Dives.
Get out of here. Minnesota's a great team. Get out of here, man. Come on.
Real quick, Dives, before we go. I just want to say it is just one game. I agree in terms of Eagles fans will overreact to this game no matter what the result is. But I will say that's a great stat that from Joe that the Birds haven't won in week 2. If that's true, that's a wild stat. That sounds running through it in my head. It kind of seems true. So that's a good stat. Nice job. But
yeah, it sounds about right.
I think that that completely threw my through my train of thought here. But I like that. It is just 1 week, but if Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni want to change that narrative, Dives, that they beat up on bad teams, and later on in this year, even if what I said happens, they go on this winning streak and maybe they lose to the Vikings, people will look back and say, oh, but they didn't beat anybody. When they played Minnesota, they lost. So this is going to be, like you said, a big measuring stick game, and this is a big game for the Jalen Hurts. Is he the guy next year going forward conversation? That's what it is. I know people don't want to assess that every single game, but the Eagles are assessing that every single game, and especially against good defenses, especially against good teams like this. This is a litmus test for if Jalen Hurts can be the guy going forward.
Yeah, this game is on a short list of the 2022 season of games that will be nitpicked and dissected ad nauseum. Shane Haff and I will probably have about 13 videos of this game over the next couple of weeks. So be prepared for that, because I agree, Mark. Jalen Hurts needs to show that he's Jalen Hurts is a good quarterback. What he needs to show is that he's a playoff winning quarterback. And good defenses like the Minnesota Vikings, I expect them to stack the box. I expect them to make Jalen Hurts beat them with his arm, hit those tight windows, which, to his credit, he did last week. There were times when he did hit those windows, but then again, there were times when he tucked and run in a clean pocket. We'll see what that means here in week 2. Joe says Birds haven't won in a week 2 since 2016. That is awesome, man. Moody Blue says, cool pod, I'll get more. Thanks for joining, man. Thank you so much. Darth Pooh says if they lose, they lose. This is as straight up of an even match as you can get. I agree, man. I agree.
True. Yeah.
I agree with that. I agree with that wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
If the Eagles defense showed me a little more in week 1, I'd probably have the Eagles winning this game. That's what it is.
It's probably an overreaction by us. Darth Pooh 79, great point. I said it with respect that time. But I will say it's probably an overreaction by us, to be honest, but I think it'd be hard to underreact to how good Minnesota looked against Green Bay and how many concerns there were with Philadelphia against Detroit. Yeah. So, you know what? If the Eagles win tonight, we're going to look back and say, you know what? We overreacted to week 1. Shame on us.
Yep.
And good on Darth Pooh 79.
And to be fair, Detroit looked pretty decent in week 2. They did pretty decent. But yeah.
But so did Green Bay.
You could if you flip the script there, you had the Eagles holding the Lions in week 1 23-7 like the Vikings did. like this would be a completely different conversation. That's where it begins and ends with my fears against the Minnesota Vikings. It's the Eagles defense. Carson's rookie year. Steven has the Eagles winning 30-26. Man, it's gonna be a long night. People won't even remember this on Thanksgiving. I don't understand.
I think he's disagreeing with us, saying it's an important game.
Yeah. Oh, fair. Gannon showing more is like asking a fat kid where the Twinkies are. You know they can't produce some? Jesus. All right. Jonathan says Philly about to get slapped by the Vikes. We'll see, man. I don't know. I definitely think this is going to be a close game. I think it's going to be very even till the end of the clock. But let's wrap it up. James, floor is yours, man. Plug your show, Edge of Philly Sports. Time is yours.
Yeah, so I'm on every Saturday at 9 o'clock a.m. on Edge of Philly Sports, Patterson Avenue for next, and you can follow me at James Scorza, and also you can follow me on Facebook or wherever social media goes. So thanks for having me on, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for joining, James. Hopefully the first of many, man. It was awesome. It was an honor to meet you, man. Finally. All right. Mark.
Yeah, it was fun.
Awesome, man. Well, we got to get you on Party on Broad next time. Gotta get you.
For sure.
All right, Mark. Do we have enough time to plug all your shit? I'm just asking.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll focus on the two. Chalk Talk, the Painted Lines. Me and Shane will be doing that tomorrow night. I think at 9:15.
Okay.
We'll be breaking down week 2 in the NFL, and obviously talking a lot about what happens tonight in Eagles Vikings. And then on Saturday, I have my show on Fox Sports PHL The Gambler on iHeartRadio every Saturday from 11 to 1. Talking about college football for the first hour, NFL for the second hour generally. So check that out, the Tough Cover Radio Show with Mark Henry Jr. on Fox Sports PHL The Gambler. I legit just went into radio, like pitching to commercial mode right there. My brain went on autopilot, and I was thinking about the game tonight, and then I started going Fox Sports PHL The Gambler, streaming live on iHeartRadio. Oh my God, my brain is off. Let's go Birds.
And
Go Birds.
Now a brief word from our sponsor.
Yeah, exactly.
Joe says great pregame show tonight, guys. We'll be bringing you pregame shows, little plug time. We'll be doing a halftime show for about 10-15 minutes. That'll be Freddie and Shane. You don't want to miss that. Then we'll be doing a post-game live show. Freddie, Shane, and others. I think Maddie B will also be on there. I think there's one more, but I can't think of it right now. Mark, you'll be on there?
Yeah.
Oh, nice. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
All right. That's awesome. So there's going to be just tons of Eagles content tonight, tomorrow, Birds of the Round Tables tomorrow with Shane, myself, and Ryan from Philly Sports Alliance. And you can expect all the Jalen Hurts breakdowns, all 22 breakdowns you can ever imagine, highlight reels, you name it, on the Eagles. Dude, I think we hit 30 Eagles videos between week 1 and now, just this week. It's insane. So I just want to thank everyone for commenting here. The comments were awesome. Go check out Edge of Philly Sports on Facebook, on YouTube. EOP hold on one second. It is EOPsports.com. Check out thepaintedlines.com here on YouTube. Wherever you're watching, please be sure to smash that subscribe button. Thank you everyone for watching. Go Birds. We will see you at halftime. For James, for Mark, for myself, stay awesome, everyone.